Good Monday evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. It's been just a minute or two. Took a couple weeks off, went on vacation, came back, and now we are back at it. It is great to be back in front of y'all, either live or on replay, depending how you are consuming this particular video. And if you are live, we do have a live chat ready and waiting for you to put down your comments, your thoughts, your questions. And if you're watching replay, feel free to leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on the show. A couple things to get to before we get our guest in here. 16 men's teams and 16 women's teams are now getting ready for the Intercollegiate Team Championships after advancing through the sectional round over the weekend. Both defending ITC champs, Whitewater and Stephen F. Austin. Whitewater on the men's side, Stephen F. Austin on the women's, were among those to advance. Runners-up Wichita State men and McKendree women are also included in that field. You can see all the teams that advanced by finding the link on the Bowling with the Fef Facebook page. They will do battle at the South Point Bowling Plaza in Las Vegas, Nevada, April 19th through the 22nd. I haven't heard about any kind of television on that just yet. Last year they did do a tape-delayed televised version of the men's and women's championships. Looking forward to finding out when we're going to see some ITC college bowling action on television once again. Well, the PBA tournament of champions starts in earnest tomorrow, and AJ Chapman is among 9 to advance to the main field through the pre-tournament qualifier. That event happened earlier today. It was 8 games, and the advancers include Chapman, Tim Grundler, Nick Pate, Brandon Novak, Frank Snodgrass, J.R. Raymond, John Perez, Brad Miller, and Cody Shoemaker. Round 1 of qualifying starts tomorrow, 10 a.m. Wisconsin time. And then the top 17 are going to advance to a 4-show stepladder. That's right, 4 different shows, 17 participants, culminating in the final 5, and that's on Sunday, 11 a.m. Wisconsin time on Big Fox. So definitely a different feel for the Tournament of Champions this year. Looking forward to seeing it. Flush in the Pocket, Derek Michaud. Hey, buddy. Good to see you watching live tonight, and congratulations on the success of your show. Flush in the Pocket, a great follow here on the YouTube. If you can check it out, subscribe, tell Derek I sent you, and enjoy his tremendous content. Speaking of content, we've got a bunch of live and recorded events coming up that I want to tell you about. Now, keep in mind, this is a plan, and sometimes plans are subject to change, but assuming everything goes the way I think it will, we will have at least these 3 events to cover. Coming up on March 26th is the Midwest Senior Classic at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is right by me. Midwest Senior Classic, some of the best seniors, 50 and up, in the Midwest in our area. They are coming to Eau Claire for the first time in a long time. Not sure I can remember the last time they were here in town, but they will be, and we'll be out showing that live. Then on April 14th, starts 3 days of coverage at the PBA's World Series of Bowling, which is again coming back to Bolero Wauwatosa. You can find last year's coverage here on the channel. It's a fantastic event. Basically 2 weeks of tournaments and lots of great stuff, great opportunities for interviews and the like. I will be back there for the 2nd year in a row. Looking forward to it. And as you may have seen on the Bowling with the Fef Facebook page, we will have live streaming of the MJBT WYBT Border Battle. That tournament also at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire. Two basically all-star teams, one from Wisconsin, one from Minnesota, doing battle on the lanes at Wagner's. Another one that I am looking forward to because we haven't seen that caliber of junior tournament at Wagner's in a while. So 3 great events, 2 of them live. The World Series of Bowling will be recorded. Of course, Bowl TV is the exclusive live streaming provider for that event. But nonetheless, what a great run of live and recorded events in bowling in the spring here on the channel. Well, I can tell you that this channel, this show looks the way it does, thanks in large part to Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet is an Eau Claire company distributing quality salsas, relishes, and much more to stores in 38 states and Canada. In the Twin Cities of Minnesota, you can find your Chip Magnet at Whole Foods, Nolan's Festivals, Kowalski's, Lunds and Byerly's, and most all small co-op stores. And if Chip Magnet is not on a store shelf near you, you can go to chipmagnetsalsa.com to get your fix. Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards. And a big thank you, as always, to Chip Magnet Salsa for supporting Bowling with the FEF. Well, our guest tonight started in bowling when he was young, got away from the sport, and then came right back. I mean, I can relate to that. A lot of us can. But the twists and turns in his story are different than most. And I'd venture to guess different than just about all. It involves mixed martial arts, a little wrestling, and competitive barbecue. So it's safe for me to say that we have never had a guest coming on our show quite like Troy Canfield of Rosemount, Minnesota. And we're going to bring him on right now. Troy, thank you so much for joining us here on Bowling with the FEF.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the interesting intro.
I'm looking forward to this, really dating back to last year at the PWBA at Cedarvale. You and I for quite a while. And I committed a lot of this to memory because I was so interested to hear your story. I want to talk about a barbecue spring training event that's coming up at the Andrew Boss Laboratory of Meat Science at the University of Minnesota's St. Paul campus. You posted to Facebook that you will be talking about chicken trimming. Tell me about this event and how you got lined up with this.
Well, it's through the Minnesota Barbecue Society. If you're interested, check out the mbs.com. It's the Minnesota Barbecue Society. It's spring training. We kick off our first competition in May, and this kind of kicks off the season a little bit with some training. They usually bring in a big celebrity to teach the big stuff.
And that's why they brought you, right?
Right? No, no. I'm actually just coming in.
Okay.
But another friend of ours, Craig Griefy, he's going to be teaching some skills on brisket trimming as well. And then I was asked to do the chicken trimming. Basically, you take a chicken thigh, and it looks like a complete disaster when you just pull it out of the package, and then trim it down to a competition, nice looking squared off piece of chicken. And basically, I'm going to be just running through the way I do it. There's just like everything, there's many ways to skin a cat. So I'm sure there'll be people, I don't do it that way, but it is what it is. I'm going to just show people what I do. And it was an honor to be asked to do it. My wife, Jen, is on the board for the Minnesota Barbecue Society, and they were talking to her about it. And she just let them know that, well, Troy does that. I don't. So if you want us to do it, he'd have to do it. So yeah, I got tossed in there, and it's kind of cool. It's an honor. Like I said, it's going to be our first year as a pro team coming from a backyard, from 4 years of doing backyard, which is semi-pro. I mean, it's the backyard division in barbecue is not what it used to be. It used to be basically what you would expect a backyard barbecue competition. Now it's people that really know what they're doing and they're doing 2 meets, and it's interesting the changes that have happened since we've started, even in 4 years.
Sure. First of all, I just want to say I'm really glad I ate dinner before this episode. Secondly, I got to know, is the barbecuing, competitive barbecuing community anything like the bowling community, either in the Twin Cities or in the big picture?
It's crazy. It's weird. It's family. Both the pro side and the backyard side is family. Since we've been into it, it would be really difficult to leave just simply because there's people that we would miss seeing on a constant basis. Um, a lot of when I posted this interview, a lot of the likes and all that were on there were part of our barbecue family. So I don't know if they've tuned in, but it's a lot of them are from there. Um, and it's we all got each other's backs. It's not of a big, nose in the air community. It's if someone needs help, we help them.
Okay.
There's just and it's a lot of good volunteer work throughout the community. A lot of different teams do different volunteering. Hometown Heroes, our friend Alan Larimore is doing a Hometown Heroes thing coming up. Check that out online. His team is Wrecking Crew Barbecue. Check his page out on Facebook to get the Hometown Heroes. I didn't prepare myself to do that. That was a throw in. So, but it's a good feel good. We do a huge competition that means the world to us every year in Elk River called Get Busy Living. Hashtag Living is the website. It's based about awareness. They help suicide families, after suicide, that the family, kind of they help them deal with that kind of stuff. There's way more to it than what I can get into right now, but
sure.
Everything we've gotten into with this barbecue has meaning, and it's weird. It's like we just got into it to cook, and it's growing into a passion. It's growing into meaning things to others, and it's a cool community.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get into kind of your origins and the whole barbecue thing coming up a little later in the show, but I will tell you I have no experience in amateur or professional cooking. I'm a horrible cook, but if you ever get the chance to judge one of these barbecue competitions, you must do it. It is awesome. You sit there for hours eating ribs or chicken or whatever the meat may be. They throw the remains in a styrofoam container. You've got lunch for the next like 3 days, and these guys and gals are tremendous at this. This is like you said, this is not something that is for the faint of heart. It takes effort, it takes skill, and it's fantastic. So that's awesome about the speaking gig and all the rest. So best of luck with all of that.
Thank
I
you.
want to kind of get into the bowling stuff too. And later this year at Cedarvale, you guys are going to be hosting a PWBA regional event, and the center has a history of hosting PWBA tour stops. But this is a great opportunity for talented women throughout the Midwest and beyond to kind of make their mark. I mean, tell me about what you guys do to prepare for be it a regional stop, a tour stop, or any kind of high profile tournament like that.
Well, when a tournament like that is coming, we dedicate the center to that tournament. We've had a banner up already advertising for the regional, not only for spectators, but we want and really encourage local bowlers to come participate. I mean, this is a chance to, come in and show what you got. There's plenty of talent out there. I just watched the Queens was held at our center, and it was just amazing, the talent that was there. And it was a lot of the bowlers or a few of the bowlers that I did watch during the PWBA stop this past season too. And it's a cool feeling to have that at our center. It's an honor. We take it as an honor. We don't take it for granted. Like, hey, me coming in as a manager there, learning that we hold these tournaments it's prestigious. That's not every center just gets to hold these type of tournaments. I mean, you know, in a weird thing, me, my wife, and daughter we got to be on TV last year because we were front row watching the PWBA finals at a center that I get to run. Not that I have to run. I get to run. I get to, control things at this center that holds these events. It makes me, feel like I really accomplished something to get there, even though it was kind of fell in my lap in a sort of way. But I've learned the job. I feel that I've earned the job, and I love the job. It's a great place to do and hold tournaments, like you're saying. Like I said, I really encourage local talent to come out and bowl this tournament and show what you got. We will pamper you. We got all the snacks and the beverages in the room downstairs for you. It'll be all prepared for you. Really nice. And we take very good care of the ladies when they're there and make sure everybody else does as well.
Yeah. And it's got modern amenities, lanes that are really only a year or two old, all that stuff. So I would echo what you're saying. If you're considering it, take the plunge, ladies. You'll be glad you did. Derek says bowling podcasts are not supposed to make you hungry. in all capital letters, and he says hello and wants to know how it's going.
It is going very well. Hello back.
Yeah.
And I apologize to make you hungry.
Hey, like I said, got to eat dinner beforehand, for a 7:00 show like this. Let's get into your bowling story. Tell me about how you initially got into it. Was it family? Was it friends? Was it a chance meeting or stumbling upon a center? How does your bowling story start?
It was chance. When I was a kid, my mom brought me to our local town. I lived in a small town, St. Francis, and we went there, I think, just for a weekend, like Saturday bowling, or not even Saturday. I don't even know what day, but I was a kid in, I think, 8 years oldish, maybe a little bit older, 10, something like that. And I went bowling with just her and another guy at the center that was a high school coach, I believe, at the time. And he was a high school bowler, and he saw me and he came over and asked my mom about if I bowl in the junior program. Well, coincidence, I have a few cousins that were already bowling in this and we didn't even know about it. I ended up on their team and started bowling juniors, YABA, YABA, at St. Francis. And from there, when we got into high school, that's where I had the good decision that I got teased for, leave football and be a bowler. And I was a much better bowler than I was a football player. So, and no offense to our high school football team, but it wasn't really worth playing for back then. I didn't really feel like going and whatever. That's how that football team was. Oh, they were bad.
There's a lot of ebb and flow in that, though. Sometimes,
you learn how to lose. Yeah. but in our bowling team, we actually were pretty good. We did well in state, and so it was fun. It was a good time. I think my decision was good, and
Tell me about that center. I mean, kind of give us a lay of the land. What was it like there? Are we talking an older place, newer, bigger, smaller? What was it like at St. Francis?
It's older, although the outer shell of it is actually in pretty good shape from what you can see on the outside. I still visit it. They have a rib cook-off every year, or twice a year. So I still actually go out there. And it's funny to see because I work in a 32 lane center and there's 12.
Okay.
So I walk in and I'm just struck. I'm like, oh, this is tiny. It's just, and the more I see it, the more I'm kind of like thrown off as to how little it was, because it seemed huge when I was a kid.
Sure.
And it's changed immensely. It had a little arcade that's now looks like it's the office. It did need some updating. It just went through a sale actually a former teammate of mine from high school.
Oh.
She ended up purchasing it. There's big changes going on in St. Francis. That her family owned Tasty Pizza, and now they're bringing Tasty Pizza over to the Lanes.
Uh-huh.
So this should actually be a really good change to St. Francis Lanes. You would think. I mean, Tasty Pizza's got a very good reputation.
Okay.
So to bring that to the bowling center, you would think which should end up being a good change.
Yeah. Tell me about getting into that junior program. I mean, was there coaching? Did you find that you had to kind of lean on some of the more experienced bowlers, or did you have a bona fide coach that you worked with?
Well, there was a couple of the high school guys, Mike McCormick and Doug Driver, I think his name was. I don't know what happened to Doug. I know Mike was a cop in Cottage Grove now. I see him on Facebook every now and then. But those two helped me right away. And then afterwards, through the high school team, we had a coach, John Ball. And he wasn't like a known coach, but he knew the basics, knew how to teach us the basics. I had a best friend, Rocky Rockstead, back then. His family owned St. Francis Lanes. So him and I spent hours at this place, like just hours, and long time. Actually, the Halloween snowstorm, I think we were stuck there. So, I mean, I spent so much time at this place with him, and his mom taught us a lot, actually, too. She was the coach in the beginning. When we first started, and then John took over after she had left. But yeah, it's cool. It was not the coaches that I see now in Eagan,
Mhm.
but for St. Francis, they taught the basics, kind of some old school, put the towel in front of the foul line type stuff you don't teach anymore. It's kind of funny seeing that, or thinking back on that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I had a few coaches help me out along the way.
Okay. Was there a time that you remember? Obviously you're into bowling, and if you're like me, you just kind of kept going with the steps of it. You got competitive, you start doing tournaments. But was there a time when you thought, wow, this is more than just something I do? This is actually my passion.
Just doing tournaments, and I think first couple of times when you start doing well at tournaments, and then in high school, 94. So it was the year after Brent, and I think you were gone out of the high school deal. But I ended up as a junior. I ended up Minnesota MVP. I got this trophy for that, and that I was like, okay, I'm a junior in high school. To me, it almost felt like, I know it was a team sport, but that I stuck out, to get that plaque that says Minnesota MVP. That stuck out to me, and that was like, okay, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, after high school, I ended up focusing on bad things, and it got me out of bowling. And I wish I would have stuck in with bowling, because I know I had a chance to do more things with it. But, other things just took priority as an 18-year-old.
Sure. Did you do MJBTs while you were a junior?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I pretty much in our town, I didn't really know of much. I knew some, like, the tournaments at, Textonka. I think it was the Youth Twin Cities tournament, stuff like that.
Sure.
None of the big traveling stuff besides high school I learned about. We're up in the boondocks, man. We didn't get told about any of this stuff. We're bowling on wooden lanes.
Yeah. How about the high school team? I mean, as juniors, it seems like there's a lot of individual focus. At least I remember there being that, when I was up through juniors. But then you're thrust into this team environment, and if it was the way I remember it, it was either mostly or all Baker systems. So you're kind of relying on each other, to figure things out, to make good shots. Who was on your team, and what was that like for you?
Well, the Geslins, the ones that own Tasty Pizza, the ones I was telling you about, Rachel Geslin and Shelly Geslin, Bethany Hibbard, Rocky Rockstead. I had a couple, like John, like the twins, John and Jeremy Ball, one of their friends, Chris. It was kind of, and Rihanna Coolidge. It was kind of just thrown together through our junior system. High schoolers were asked, "Do you want to do this?" And we did. We were like, "Sure." What it was the big difference was the pressure, I think. When you got 4 other people counting on you for this frame, you better pull through. And for a high schooler, that's pressure that you've never felt for bowlers. You got a bunch of people counting on you, not just yourself. And throughout your whole time, it's been a selfish sport. Yeah. And now here you are, whether you're the anchor or not, you need to fill your frame. Mm-hmm. And I even coach a little bit through Eastview High School out here now. Oh. And that's the biggest thing we teach the kids. Don't worry about a strike. We just fill the frame. Mm-hmm. If you fill the frame, you have a good chance of a good score. Okay. So spares is, the big deal. I mean, yeah, you want to string some strikes along, of course, for the big numbers, but someone can get a bunch of strikes and open twice and they're going to lose.
Yep. Yes, we are.
All about keeping that. Yeah, it's all about keeping it clean.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I tell my son falling out.
I tell my son that all the time. Your job is the pins that are in front of you. Don't worry about the final score. That'll take care of itself. Knock them all down. If you don't knock them all down the first time, knock them all down the second time. And
right.
Hopefully that resonates. I mean, he's only 10, so we'll see how that goes. You said that out of high school you kind of fell out of the sport, but you had some other stuff going on. You got into mixed martial arts. Tell me about that. How does one get into that? Because from somebody on the outside looking in, I mean, I think of I think of UFC and things like that, or Taekwondo, that you see ads for all the time. But what got you into mixed martial arts, and how does that compare to those other things?
Basically, I wrestled my whole life. I've wrestled. When my mom married my stepdad, we married into a wrestling family. My stepdad and his brothers wrestled when they were younger. So, I mean, it was, you were a wrestler. This is what you do. We started cutting weight at 10 years old, just 5 pounds, just to learn for the state tournament.
Yeah.
You'd wrestle, I think I wrestled like 10 and under 55 pounds or something like that when I first started. And for the state tournament, then we would go down to 10 and under 50 pounds, which it was weird because everybody else did the same thing. So it was, if you didn't do that, you're going to be wrestling the big kids. So it was just kind of, it was funny. But anyway, fast forward, after high school, I wasn't good enough wrestler to make it into a college team or anything like that. A good friend that grew up with us, Sean Shirk, he ended up later down the road becoming the lightweight UFC champion. Him and I did judo together. We just wanted, he talked me into it. He wanted to do something. We saw UFC on I think a VHS tape, one of the first ones with Hoist Gracie winning it. And this was what he wanted to do, and so I just kind of went along with it. I wanted to do something still after high school, and we did judo, and I did pretty well in judo, won the Midwest Judo Championships actually as a white belt. It was pretty cool to do. And after that, I ended up kind of falling off a little bit, focusing on party and atmosphere more than I was sports or anything like that. Had my mom passed away in 98, and I kind of lost focus on reality.
Sure.
Went down some tough paths.
Yeah.
And Sean then brought me back. He reconnected with me later down the road. Said, "Hey, I train at this gym, the Minnesota Martial Arts Academy. You should come check it out." So I did. And when I went there, Greg Nelson, the owner and I mean, unbelievable in any mix. To say a martial art master is even understating this guy. Like, just unbelievable. He welcomed me with open arms. Like, didn't know who I was, but Sean brought me in there, and Sean was already fighting in pro level. And so I went there and I was grappling and doing some stuff, and I was having just a really good time doing it, and submitted some guys on the first couple nights that had won grappling championships. And even they're looking at me like, who are you? You know, why are you here? And how are you doing this to me? And I loved it. And then I started grappling with some other guys at the next level of competing. And I, as a wrestler, and funny thing in wrestler and mixed martial arts, as a wrestler, when you get taken down, you want to go to your stomach and put your neck up. Well, in mixed martial arts, if you do that, you're going to get choked like that. I felt like I had tonsillitis for about 6 months because I refused to learn to not do that. So it was funny, but yeah, I got into it. It helped straighten my life out. You know, put a fork in the road that I traveled down that, you know, straightened me out a little bit, got me off of some bad things. And it, you know, it helped, and it was fun. I traveled across the country, you know, got put up in a cage and fought some people, and I had a good time. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I had a really good time. You know, you learn to get your ass beat. You know, I take a couple of good shots, and you know, some of the shots you take to your face, and you're like, well, that didn't really even hurt. It puzzles you sometimes, you know. So it teaches you what you have and what you don't have. And there's a saying at Minnesota Martial Arts Academy, one of their motto, it is their motto, opera non verba, means deeds, not words. And I have that tattooed across my back because
cool.
That means it means a lot to me. I try to live by it. There's days I catch myself saying, you ain't living by your tattoo. So helps you straighten out a little bit, keeps you focused. And as little time as I spent with Greg Nelson, like, he made a big impact. Like, he just, like I said, he didn't know who I was, but welcomed me with open arms, taught me a lot in the brief time that I had with him. And yeah, I'll never forget that. So, and so Sean for pulling me out and bringing me into that. And, you know, the whole thing was just, it was a good ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you learn.
I was going to say, how long did you end up doing it?
7, I don't know. I stopped at 32, I think. In 2008 was my last fight. Okay. I remember going in my last fight, and I didn't make weight. For one, I had moved on from the Minnesota Martial Arts Academy. Unfortunately, I had a great manager at the time that Gavin. Gavin Rydell. He was making the name for himself too. But I also wish I would have stuck with the team that I was with, because I had familiarity, and it just threw me all off. And then when I went up to my last fight, was in actually Grand Rapids, Minnesota, against Nate Scott. I didn't make weight. I disappointed quite a few people for doing that. My dedication wasn't there. Even in the locker room, I had nobody warming me up. I, started just shadow boxing myself, kind of went out to the cage, the bell rang, and I was so laxy-daisy, just kind of like, well, here we go. Yeah. And that is not, you're going to get smoked. And sure. And I did. I mean, he took me down to the ground and piss pounded me, and I tapped out due to strikes. My head was ringing, my ears were ringing, my nose was bleeding. I wasn't going anywhere. He had my back, and he was tagging me to, I was on my way out. Things were blurry. So I tap out, and the crowd booed me for tapping out. They're vicious. They're vicious. They want you to die. But, but I knew right there that was it. That was my last time. No more after that. If you're not dedicated, you have no business in that cage.
Yeah. Derek says that I shouldn't make you mad because you'll probably beat me up. I think that's that's probably not worth his time. I mean, we're like 2 hours apart. And,
Not only that, but I'm old and washed up, and if,
and we're good. We're good.
I'm creaky now. I'm not. Some
Yeah.
things you look at me wrong, and they just start hurting for a week. I don't know.
Yeah, and he also says sorry for the loss of your mom, and yeah,
Well, thank you.
That's sad to hear that, but yeah, we move on. You ended up getting back into bowling. Tell me about kind of the timeline between all that. Was it that you were still in mixed martial arts and you get back into bowling at the same time, or did one follow the other?
It was actually years apart.
Okay.
I had been done with martial arts, like I said, 2008. I ended up I met my wife before that. We worked together, but we ended up together, in 2011. And we moved out I was living in Coon Rapids at the time with a buddy of mine. And her and I moved out to Farmington together. And my niece and nieces and nephew, and actually my sister and brother-in-law all bowled at Cedarvale. Oh. And the Friday night league needed people. So my niece just reaching out just said, "Hey, did you ever think about bowling again? They need people."
Yeah.
So my wife and I decided what the heck, let's go do this. And it lit a fire. Like as soon as I'm like, okay. And if you can't tell, with competition barbecue, with wrestling, with fighting, I had 4 stepbrothers, and we were always we had to be better than one another. It was honestly kind of a sickness. But competition has been in my blood. It's for some reason, I always have to be at the top. I want to be better. I want to know whatever I'm doing, I want to know how to do it better than the next guy. Yeah. I don't know. It's been programmed into me. So here we are. I go bowling, and I ended up getting a used bowling ball from Scott Pohl on track at Cedarvale, and that I ended up getting my first 600 back, and then all of a sudden I'm averaging 190. 2 years into it, averaging 205. I'm like, well, here we go. And then all of a sudden in 2012, I got a 299. I want to say it was 2012. And I had gotten the ball from my wife and her brother as a gift, Christmas gift. It was a Roto-Grip Defiant Soul. And little did I know the reputation that ball had. I had a gem in my hand, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But I was still throwing 16 pounds, or I might even throw that ball still. Now I'm down to 15.
Like the rest of us. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A lot of us dropped down, but yeah, no, it just lit a fire. And it's funny because I knew Brent and you from back in high school. Mm-hmm. I don't even know. I know Brent had a hard time remembering me, but I don't know if you do. But I was a couple grades younger than you guys.
Well, keep in mind against you guys. Keep in mind, Brent was a senior when I was a freshman. We're practically the same age.
Oh, okay. So yeah, okay. So you were you were kind of like me, thrust with the older people as a youngster.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. But I remember you from back on there when we would against you guys, and Brent was just always cool to me. He was just always, no matter, he was the king, like he was the top bowler out of all of, but never had that attitude. Mm-hmm. And I think that, it carries over today. He's one of the nicest people, but it's just really important in bowling to have that, because there's a lot of attitude out there, and attitude is what will ruin your night. So you need to, wipe it off and move on to the next frame. And I think he taught me that back then, if I remember right, because he just kind of, and I'm sure he had his moments. We all do.
Right.
We all do. But yeah, it was cool back then.
Yeah. Benjamin Witt says Jackal Ghost for the win. Not so much Defiant Soul, although he says green and yellow. I used to have that too.
He's a Packer fan, so
yeah, that's a good thing,
for some.
This is a good good time in the show for me to remind folks that it's free to subscribe to this thing. Let me get Ben's comment out of there, so I'll put this obnoxious picture and remind you that you can subscribe in the corner there. It's easy to do, doesn't cost you anything. It certainly helps me out as I continue my content journey. You can also see the link in the comments there, but closing in on 1,000 subscriptions. So that's a big number for those of us in content creation. Please subscribe, and thank you to those who do. Yeah, Brent is great. He told me that that you are definitely starting to learn the business side of bowling versus being a bowler yourself. Is there a difference there? Can somebody who is an avid bowler just waltz into a job like that and manage a center, or does it take a certain kind of person who maybe also knows the game?
The first question, no. A bowler, just because you're a bowler, you're not going to just jump into this and know what you're doing. And as far as there a certain person, I don't think there's a certain mold. Once you're in, it will mold you. You have to learn, and I had coming from construction. I laid carpet for 20 years before I did this. So construction, we're mean, and if someone's not doing it right, you kind of lose it on them, where you can't really do that on, when you're running a bowling center and then, and having people all of a sudden, come at me for something, I'm like, holy cow, I got to learn how to handle this. That part I'm learning big time, learning the people.
Yeah.
Some of the most enjoyable is the relationships you don't even realize you're going to gain.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that I call business or work friends, or customer friends, there's just a bunch of them. And it's crossing over because they're even coming to our barbecue competitions. So it's really cool. But to just be able to jump in is not. And as a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. I have a very great bowler that just started a few months ago. He's a collegiate bowler, Dylan Hansen. He works there now. And I think he got blindsided by, this is a lot different than what I had thought. And as a matter of fact, I have a few bowlers that are on there, that a few of the couple of high schooler bowlers that I think this job is really helping them, because this will teach you people skills real quick, really quick. And it's not all bad. I'm not saying it that way. The people that are very generous, we get tips from people. It's just cool. We don't ask for tips. All of a sudden there's a tip. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I've learned that I didn't know before that I love is working with the special needs people. Mm-hmm. During the day, I work during the day mostly, so I can get my admin stuff done on the computer, along with usually taking care of the open bowling. But lately we've been so busy that I haven't been able to open the computer, which is a good thing. Yeah. But it's kind of taken me off guard. But we have constantly a special needs group in almost every day of a different, from a different company. And these kids and adults, they're so fun to work with. Yeah. And I never even knew that about myself, that, that I would love working with these, and the joy that they bring me when they come in during the day with they're so happy to be bowling, and they come in there they're so bright and happy that part of the business, that there's just things you don't realize that will get you happy and in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How'd you get into it? I mean, we talked about Brent a little bit. He's the owner there. Tell me about how you landed that gig.
Being friends with Brent, I'm not going to lie. Being friends with him from high school, losing connection with him, and then reconnecting as a bowler at his center coincidentally, that is just strange. Of all centers to land at, and he's there too. So yeah. We ended up reconnecting as friends, and I'd go up to his cabin and hang out. My wife, my kids, we all go up there with the dogs and stuff and hang out with him at the cabin. And my body was just breaking down from carpet laying, from fighting, from wrestling. Just I've had knee surgery, I've had stuff removed, a lipoma removed out of my leg, I've had a shoulder surgery. Things just breaking down. And he asked me one time when we were up there, he's like, well, you looking for a career change? He said, because I think you'd be good at this. You're a bowler, and I think you'd be good at, handling this. And his manager at the time was moving out of state. And so he needed somebody and, plugged me in. And I kind of learned to hit the ground running, learning it as we go too. Him teaching me. Gail, she's known around Cedarvale very well. She's teaching me, learning from the back. Craig, there's a guy, Craig McDonald. I mean, the guy, I've never seen somebody care about bowling machines like this guy. Like, that place is kept up the way it's kept up because of him and his helpers, or his employers, whatever. Don't get me wrong, but I'll never forget, I left lanes running with nobody bowling. And anybody that's worked the front desk will tell you, and they're probably laughing if they're watching this. You leave lanes running, he will come marching up and he will get the scolding like he's your dad. He will let you know you don't leave these lanes running. You wouldn't just leave a car running.
Right.
And then I'm a smart aleck and I say, well, if it's January, I might.
Oh, no.
But that's just me. But I have learned, you care for these machines. Craig cares for those machines. You better care for these machines as well.
Yeah.
And the whole business itself is a machine that it kind of works that way. We got to care for each other, take care of one another, and that's, I think we do that as a pretty good team as best we can on that aspect.
Yeah. And I'm sure I've said this on the show in previous episodes, but those machines that you're looking at in black and white in the show open every week are Cedarvale's A2s. So
I thought they were. I saw that and I'm like, those are ours. I swear.
Yeah. Little fun fact there. Derek reminds us that any brand of Brunswick ball for the win. You got 7 brands, you can't go wrong. Of course, they're supporting him with his venture. So yeah, he's a big fan, and he has been since before then. We are kind of the fortunate few who have both had the pleasure of working with Brent. I worked with him back in the early 90s at Golden Valley Lanes. And of course, I'm sure it's different because now he's a proprietor. And back then we were just high school kids working at a center. But there are stresses that come, with any job and any business. And bowling is no different. You had it there. I'm sure you have it at Cedarvale. But he's so good at working through it. Like you said, on the lanes, he's good at, short memory, can keep his focus as far as being a competitor. But I'm guessing those everyday stresses kind of roll off his back, don't they?
To a point. I mean, it's we all, not just Cedarvale, but we all just recently went through quite a crazy thing with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say Cedarvale handled it pretty damn well. We came out on the other side sitting pretty good. Those stresses, I will say, all of us, not just Brent, but everybody wore those on our sleeves. But yes, again, if you were to talk to Brent face to face, you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
He would let you know that we're doing good. We're gonna be fine. Yeah. And we were. But we all knew that who doesn't know during that time that there's stresses, there was a lot of things as small businesses that were going through during the closed doors time, and then, so luckily there was, loans or whatever that helped businesses out, but it was definitely stressful, and you could tell, definitely can tell.
Yeah. Not only do you have these high profile tournaments that we talked about earlier in the show, but you are in a spot where you have regular visits from Amanda Vermelia, who has also been on the show previously, PWBA member. I asked her about you, and although she said that she hasn't known you all that long, she said you've been awesome to both Eric and her. Very nice guy and big supporter of bowling. And Brent talked about your positive attitude. He says it's a pleasure to have that, on a daily basis, treats all the guests equally and with a smile. Tell me about that. Is that something you learn or something that you think you were born with?
I've my kids tease me and my wife teases me that I was born with. I'm a social butterfly, is what they call it, and I have the gift of gab, and I do. And I, like my wife reminds me, is I always give somebody a chance. When I meet them, no matter who they are, I'm always giving them a chance. And until they cross me or teach me that I don't want to be around them, we're good. And I'm always been like that, almost to a fault, can get taken advantage of quite often. But as you get older, you learn, get those people out of your life that are going to take advantage or ruin your path. You got to keep the right paths. You're always going to get forks. You got to keep the right path. So keep the people that are going to ruin that out of your life. And that's all just, part of my attitude I don't always have a good attitude. I know I have a little temper. If someone pushes my buttons, I'm definitely working on that. That's a big part of me that I'm learning when, especially at that front desk, if somebody doesn't agree with something and they start pushing my buttons, I got to just take a deep breath and take care of them. I am not, and I'll be upfront about this, I am not the person that the customer's always right, because I stick up for my employees. Unless they're in the wrong. But if a customer is pushing the wrong buttons just to be that person, and I feel my employees being either threatened or put in an uncomfortable spot, you better believe I'm going to be, and you can ask any of them, you better believe I'm going to be right there. I'm going to look at that customer even and say, hey, no, it doesn't work that way. You're not going to come belittle or abuse our employees because you feel that you're a customer. We will treat you great, but respect goes both ways. So if you disrespect us, probably not going to get the biggest welcome or the biggest welcome back, for that matter. And so that kind of goes with, my attitude as well. As far as the Vermiliers, I love those two. Well, three, PJ. I work Saturday mornings with the junior leagues, so I get to see them every Saturday morning that they're there, which is most of them, but they're busy people, so they have to miss some here and there. But we always got our breakfast sandwiches ready to go for the Vermiliers.
No, they're great and tremendous bowlers, just tremendous. I mean, I can't say enough about that. Jen says your wife must be, sounds awesome.
Yeah, that would be my wife. She does sound pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'm right on this. Is she in this picture somewhere?
Yes, she is. She is the one holding our puppy, with the puppy looking at her like, what are you doing?
Okay.
And then our daughter Jade is holding the other two dogs.
Okay.
And I get to hold the trophy for that. That was a second place rib call.
Okay.
And that puppy that she is holding, this was just last summer, and that puppy she is holding is now 8 months and 86 pounds.
Wow.
I don't think she'll be holding him like that now.
No, not much longer anyway. Holy cow. That's it's big, not so much a puppy anymore.
No.
But that's a great kind of segue to the competitive barbecue thing. And even Ben brought that up when I asked him. He said, his summer passion is competing in meat cooking competitions, and he's getting pretty good. And Amanda said he's a big fan of barbecue too. And Eric and him can probably talk hours of smoking and barbecue. How does one get into the competitive barbecue arena, I guess we could say?
It's that damn show, Barbecue Pitmasters. I've always loved barbecuing and grilling. I think, I don't know, I love cooking. The first time I cooked something and it's a funny story, but it was actually when I was a kid. My stepdad, and this is going to be, you know, when people buy a house or whatever in their kitchen, they have the fancy lettering that says love or peace.
Mm-hmm.
In our kitchen, this is going to be stenciled in the kitchen. But my stepdad, when I was a kid, I asked him, like, well, how do you cook? How do you, I wanted to make something. And I grew up in a kind of a vulgar house. Not his answer to me was, can you fucking read? And so I took that to heart. The next time my mom and he were gone, and by the way, that's what we're getting stenciled in the kitchen is, can you fucking read? And it's going to be in our kitchen. So kind of, it's just a meaningful thing.
Yeah.
Well, that they left, and I opened a cookbook and found even down to the raw chocolate, the nasty stuff.
Yeah.
I made a batch of brownies.
Okay.
And when they got home, at first they were pissed. They're like, what is that smell? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was 10 years old. I'm like, I cooked brownies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, oh, I read the book. He told me. So I read. Here you go. Here's the brownies I read.
Yeah.
And ever since then, that's how I cooked, is I read the cookbooks and kind of, you know, it's kind of weird because I see cooks now that are great chefs that just start throwing stuff, the ingredients in without measuring. And it blows my mind because the way I've taught myself how to cook from a youngster was reading cookbooks and going by the measuring to a T. Yeah. So later down the road now, fast forward, barbecuing and stuff. And then we end up watching that show and lived in a neighborhood where we all like to barbecue, like literally 5 out of the 10 people on our block. We all had smokers, and every weekend smoking something. Decided to Google it, barbecue comps. Mm-hmm. Well, an old bowling buddy of mine that hasn't been back, Christian, if you're watching, you know, hi. Him and I were going to do this competition. His wife was pregnant at the time, and or just had the baby and wasn't feeling well. That it just fell through. He couldn't make it. Family obligations.
Yeah.
So I called my wife and said, hey, can you get out here and help me? I'm panicking. It's just me now.
Yeah.
Little did we know we had signed up for Minnesota in May, the biggest competition in Minnesota.
Oh boy.
I didn't even know what I was doing. I just wanted to sign up for a comp, and I Googled it. That's what it brought me. Well, we ended up, in order to sign up for that, you also had to be part of the Minnesota Barbecue Society, which then, like I said, as a family, they all start talking, oh, you got to do this one. We got to do this one. And, you know, we did, I think 4 or 5 competitions the first year. And then the next year, I believe the next year was COVID, and we still ended up doing 7 competitions during COVID year.
Oh, wow.
And started getting more and more calls, we call it. If you get a top 10 and you get a medal or a award of some kind, it's a call. Heard your name called. Sure. So we started getting calls more and more often, and we went to a couple of classes. One, Travis Duffy, Last Call Heroes out of South Dakota. He puts on an amazing class. We've done 2 of his class. We did a Kelly Wirtz class. Learning from these pros that are nationally ranked, worldly ranked. And it just, again, lit a fire. My wife's very competitive. She's a former competitive cheerleader. She went not only in high school, but then in college. So I don't know, now that we're getting older, this is the way we can compete. So it fills that competition vibe that we need. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. You know, you can go out and drink, and we have a camper now, so we got our camper for the weekend. We're hanging with friends, and it's addicting as all get out. It's not cheap, not gonna lie. Mm-hmm. You don't do it for the money. You're not gonna ever. There's only probably 10 people in the world that make money doing this, I would say.
Kind of like bowling. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like bowling. The prize money just isn't there yet. Hopefully someday.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is more than just something you're getting into or are good at. I mean, you've got a Facebook page. You know, tell me about this. It's called Pit. Do you call it Pity Q?
Pity Q. we have pit bulls. We're big advocates for pit bulls, and we needed a name. It's funny, the first competition in Minnesota in May that we signed up for, and she came out and helped, or not only my wife, but my daughters too. They all got up and came out and did what they could to help out. And we ended up getting a 7th place call in chicken on our first comp. And basically, where were we? I lost it. I kept thinking about that one.
That's okay. The name PBQ.
The name PBQ. So basically, we needed a name because I had TC Barbecue for the name. Well, they called us Tom Collins Barbecue. We didn't even know we got place. I don't know why the guy called us Tom Collins, but that's what he said. We're clapping for Tom Collins. Good job. And then we look at our sheets. We're like, hey, that was us.
Yeah.
And so we needed a name. And being we're lovers of pit bulls, we have 3 of them. We were like, well, hey, what about PDQ? And, we try to do both. We try to, show pit bulls are not the evil devils that everybody makes them out to be. And then we want to cook good barbecue. So usually our dogs are with us, depending on the competition. If we have the available space, to where they can be comfortable, we bring them with. If it's a tucked in parking lot, like a lot of them are, we don't bring them with because they just be too cooped up, and it gets hot or rainy and too much to worry about. But for the most part, we like to bring them with and show people that they're lovers. The pit bulls are amazing dogs. So that's where the name came from, is we just combined everything together. And we did like I said, the backyard series we did for 4 years. And now this year we're going to move up and test our cooking skills at the master level. We're going to the master series.
Wow.
And debuting that in May, 2nd weekend in May at Minnesota in May. Comes around.
Yeah. Derek wants to know, have you ever done competitive eating?
No.
Neither have I, but I love watching the hot dog competition on the 4th of July. That's fun stuff.
We actually watched that live one year.
Oh,
my
wife
and I went. It was at Mystic, and
okay.
What's his name? The big hot dog, the guy.
Joey Chestnut.
Yes, he was there.
Okay,
he was there. I think they did wings or something there, if I remember right. He ended up losing. He took 2nd, I think.
Wow. All right. Ben says he's still waiting for his samples, by the way.
I know, we bowl on Tuesday together. It's like it's tough to bring samples. I might actually be able to bring them some pork tomorrow.
There you go.
Because we did, like I told you earlier before we got on here, that I did do a couple racks of ribs and 2 pork butts as practice today.
Yeah.
Just getting ready for the big season coming up.
See, it's all about timing, Ben. You just got to be,
right
at the right time. Steve Klemkin says, if I start a coffee shop along those lines, it'll be Roddy Coffee.
Perfect.
Rottweiler, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. You talk about this kind of being a family thing. As you advance and go up, and you said, master level and things like that, where do you see this going? I mean, are you going to, and maybe you already do, travel the country going from competition to competition?
Well, right now, the furthest we've gone for competition would be like West Salem, Wisconsin, or way up north. We went to Deer River, Minnesota.
Okay.
I've gone down to Kansas City for a class and over to Sioux Falls for a class. Obviously, moving up to Master Series, there's not as many competitions in the local area.
Mm-hmm.
As a backyard, the last 2 years, we did 17 competitions each year.
Wow.
Not all of them were, sanctioned by the Minnesota Barbecue Society or KCBS sanctioning, but we ended up doing 17. This year, we're going to do less because there's only 4 or 5 Master Series in Minnesota. And then there's one in Iowa, a couple in Wisconsin. But right now, for our first year, we're not going to travel too far. We're going to get our toes wet, see where we rank amongst the area. Our area has such high talent for barbecue. It's so weird. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry throat here. But no, our area, as far as you would think, Kansas City, Tennessee, they have their people. Don't get me wrong. They have their people that win, the championships, but we have teams here that keep appearing on those top 10 charts in the country, right out of Minnesota and Wisconsin area. So we have a very high talent. So if we can go into this and fare well, then we would look at expanding. One of my goal/dream competitions is the American Royal in Kansas City. It's the largest. There's about 500 competitors. Our friend Travis Duffy won that a couple years ago. You get a gigantic trophy, $15,000 check, and prestige. You won, and a ring, the whole thing. It's you're the king. So I just want, even going there, there's Netflix specials of just the party alone down there. So I want to definitely start doing that. It'd be nice to do it on a regular basis, but we didn't even start this to become pro. We started this just to do it as for fun, and have grown into this. And it just keeps, we got sponsors, Northern Fire Barbecue out of Minnetonka. They're good friends of ours, own the place, and that we met through barbecue. They weren't good friends before barbecue. We met them and they've become good friends, and they've sponsored us. And now we just got, and then Saints and Sinners last year or 2 years ago, he's out of Little Canada, Dave Parker. He sponsors us. And then just this year now, we got Kansas City Man Meat, KC Man Meat, barbecue sauce and rubs. Obviously out of Kansas City. That's a national sponsor there. We're just getting recognized, and it's just really cool to see that, to feel that growth, because we didn't intend on that at all when we started.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And kudos to you guys. I mean, that's awesome. I'm sure it's, like you said, the competition is probably pretty fierce, which is what drives you to do it and do it well. And that's great to do that, not only on your own, but as a family, something you can share with your wife and kids. That's tremendous. I can't really end this without talking about your big accomplishment on the lanes in January, because you shot 300 right there at Cedarvale, and I saw recently you had a little picture of the ring on Facebook.
Yeah.
Tell me about that night. What what went right for you? What was it like to shoot that 300?
Pieces fell in place, like most people say. All of a sudden it just happens. Game one, wasn't feeling it. Switched balls went from a solid to a pearl, and just storm night road. And I've had it polished, and I felt the lanes were breaking a little, breaking down. So throwing that, and it started belting them out. Got the front five. I thought, okay, this is cool. You know how it is. You get there and keep going. You get to, all of a sudden I get to the eighth frame, and if the guys are watching or see this, they're all going to laugh. But there's a guy 2 lanes over from me. And I'm talking 2 lanes over. And I noticed he was up. I didn't pay no mind. It was the 8th frame, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm going up to bowl, and as I'm in my approach, my peripheral, I could see somebody heading my way. And I'm like thinking to myself as I'm still going, and I am not good at pulling up. Like some people can pull up their approach.
Yeah.
I have to keep going. I throw the ball. It's just, I can't stop. I don't know. I think you're one or the other.
Yeah.
But I see him coming, and I throw the ball, and as I release, he's literally this close to my face.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm watching the ball almost go through the nose, but all the pins fell. All my other shots were perfect, except for this one.
What
and I'm
was
not
the
going to
deal?
lie, I had a little explicit language.
Yeah.
I looked at him and I said, "What the F are you doing?" And he looked at me and said, "Oh my God, I am so sorry." And I said, "You realize I've got the front 8 now?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know. I am so sorry." He threw his shot, and he was running his shot out.
Oh no. Oh
yes.
He didn't even.
He felt horrible.
Yeah, he didn't even realize.
He felt horrible. He went back to his chair. He was just So afterwards, I joked with him, and I didn't do it, but I joked with him. I said, "Now I'm gonna have to get your initials in my ring."
Ah.
But when I got back, it was funny because even the other team was like, "Okay, just shake that off." But I'm like, "I'm good. I'm good."
Yeah.
And I had a couple sips of my drink, and I actually didn't even think about it when I went back up through the ninth one and went into the 10th. And I've had a 299, 298, and 297s. So I've been there and failed. So when I got the 11th, I grabbed my ball for the 12th, and I had that little weakness in my leg feeling. And I said, "No, no." I stepped a little bit and said, "Get rid of that shit. This is happening."
Yeah.
I'm like, don't aim the ball. Don't just throw it. Just look at your mark, throw the ball. And that's what I did. And I blasted it. It felt great on the last shot. So yeah, it was cool. Definitely cool. Now I got to get that 800.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Ben said you were lights out that game. All would have knocked 20 each time. And it was fun to watch. Yeah, Ben's done that a few times too. And
He's a bit of a good bowler.
oh yeah. And Jade says, "Oh my God, I know this guy."
Yeah, that's my daughter that was also in the barbecue picture. She
Okay.
helps out a lot too. My wife and my daughter are huge factors of the whole process. It's not just me. Everybody's like, "Oh, Troy's barbecue." No. My wife seasons, I trim, my wife seasons and injects. My daughter, if you look at our website or our Instagram, the pretty kale, it's an art form. She does that, takes pride in that. There's a lot. It's a team effort, definite team effort.
Yeah, sounds like almost an assembly line.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So as I told you before we went on, we go off the sheet on this show by asking you to challenge somebody else. Doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world, but someone who's passionate about the sport, has a unique story to tell, to be on a future episode. So Troy Canfield, who would you like to see on a future episode of Bowling with the Fev?
Well, I mentioned him earlier and his pro shop, but I'm kind of in shock that Scotty Pohl has not been on this show yet. So I am definitely going to call out Scott Pohl to be the next to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, Scott, if you're watching this live or replay, you can find me on Facebook. I'm Andrew Pfeffer, or you can email bowlingwiththefeff@yahoo.com. We would love to have you on. You can also ask Brent or Troy where to find me. They probably have a pretty good idea of where I'm at. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I should ask, if people are interested in finding you, either in barbecue or social media or a combination of both, how do they find your pages?
For PittyQ at PITTIE, just the letter Q, BBQ.com. And then that's our Instagram, Facebook. You'll see our logo. It's two pit bulls chasing a pig. And then just my Facebook's just Troy Canfield. So yeah, those are where we're at. I think we have a Twitter too, and we're trying to do more TikTok, trying to get into that with PittyQ. Got to figure out some more funny. We're into humor. We don't want to put out boring videos, so we're trying to figure out funny stuff to put out there.
Yeah, for sure. No, good luck with that stuff. And like I said, pleasure having you on. Certainly a different spin. And here's Jen saying PittyQ, BBQ. And Ben says looking forward to some of that pork butt tomorrow night. and way to go. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has definitely been a different bowling story than we've had before, which I really appreciate. And best of luck to you guys moving forward, both on the grill and on the lanes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and look forward to some more shows.
You got it. And thank all of you for watching live and on replay. Always appreciate that. And from there, we will see you again next week.